Hume on morality without religion. The notion of morality being inextricably linked to religious belief is one of the most persistent and, arguably, most influential ideas in Western thought. For centuries, the fear of divine retribution and the promise of eternal reward were presented as the essential scaffolding holding the whole structure of ethical behavior aloft. But what if that scaffolding isn't necessary? What if it was perhaps even obscuring a more beautiful, self-sustaining structure already in place? This is the radical question David Hume, the brilliant 18th century Scottish philosopher, fundamentally posed, offering a deeply insightful and surprisingly modern perspective on ethics that stands entirely independent of the theological foundations so dominant in his era. The problem with divine command theory. Hume's challenge began with a skeptical look at the prevailing divine command theory, the idea that something is good only because God commands it. While many assumed this was the only way to establish objective moral truth, Hume, the empiricist, saw problems. His argument, often foreshadowed by the Socratic Euthyphro dilemma, implies that if morality is simply arbitrary divine will, then goodness loses its meaning. Is an action good because God commands it, or does God command it because it is already good? If the former, morality is arbitrary and might change if God's will change, a terrifying and unstable foundation. If the latter, then goodness possesses an independent standard, a standard that exists prior to or outside of the divine command itself. Hume chose the latter path, arguing that the true standard for morality lies not in the heavens, but right here, on earth, within the shared experiences and natural constitution of humanity. Perfume. Sentiment, not reason, the foundation of moral judgment. Perhaps Hume's most famous and revolutionary contribution to ethics is his assertion that reason is and ought only to be the slave of the passions. Prior philosophers, like Plato and even to some extent Kant, though later, emphasized pure reason as the source of moral duty. They believed that through rigorous logic, one could deduce universal moral laws. Hume fundamentally disagreed. He observed that moral judgments are never purely descriptive, they are always prescriptive. When we say murder is wrong, we are not stating an objective fact about the world in the same way we state the sky is blue. We are expressing a profound feeling of disapproval or aversion. This crucial difference led to Hume's famous is-ought problem, or the is-ought gap, which warns against deriving an ought, a moral imperative, from an is, a factual observation. No amount of observing how the world is can logically tell us how the world ought to be. So, if reason fails to motivate us morally, what does? Hume argued it is sentiment, specifically a natural shared human capacity for sympathy, or what we might call empathy. Constitution, the power of sympathy. Hume's moral sentiment theory posits that we do not arrive at moral truth through complicated philosophical deductions, but through a gut feeling, an immediate, internal moral sense. We approve of actions that give us a pleasing feeling, and we disapprove of those that cause us uneasiness. The core mechanism for this feeling is sympathy. Sympathy, for Hume, isn't just pity. It's the ability to feel what others feel, to have their passion mirrored in our own breast, even faintly. When we see an act of kindness, we sympathetically feel the pleasure of the recipient, which in turn gives us a feeling of approval for the agent, the person performing the action. Conversely, when we witness cruelty, we sympathetically feel the victim's pain, leading to our moral condemnation of the perpetrator. Crucially, Hume noted that the actions we universally approve of are those that tend to be useful or agreeable to society or to the person performing the action, what he called merit. This focus on the beneficial outcomes of actions places Hume as a crucial forerunner to utilitarianism. Good actions for Hume are not those commanded by God, but those that naturally promote the welfare and happiness of the human community. Morality, therefore, is a magnificent, naturally evolved system for social cooperation and flourishing. It's a tool we developed to live together successfully, and it requires no otherworldly decree to validate its necessity. The social contract of feelings. Hume's system effectively secularizes morality, placing it squarely within the realm of human experience. Religion may motivate some to act well, but Hume demonstrates that the underlying moral impulse is prior to and independent of religious dogma. We don't avoid murder because a sacred text forbids it. Rather, the sacred text forbids it because we, as a species, have a powerful, sympathetic, and socially useful feeling that murder is abhorrent. The moral law is written into our social nature, not just on stone tablets. In essence, Hume offers a profoundly optimistic view. Human beings are naturally predisposed to goodness and sociability. While reason helps us determine the best means to achieve our goals, our fundamental goals, our desire for happiness, peace, and the avoidance of suffering, are sentimental and universal. So, what do you think? Does Hume's philosophy hit the mark by rooting morality in our shared human sentiment and sympathy? Drop a comment below and let us know your perspective. Don't forget to smash that like button if this deep dive into 18th century ethics got you thinking, and subscribe for more philosophical adventures that challenge the conventional wisdom.